Thanks for joining me again as we look back at another great classic film. This is a standout Australian film that was made during a period when the local film industry had effectively ground to a halt. It stars an established icon of the Australian cinema, an emerging star, and the debut of an actor who would go on to become a star in Hollywood. It was shot on location in remote parts of the Torres Strait and was a moderate success at the domestic and international box office. It is King of the Coral Sea from 1954. This was one of only 2 Australian films made that year and came about as the result of a partnership between Chips Rafferty and Lee Robinson. Chips was the biggest and best loved star of the Australian screen, following highly successful appearances in Australian films 40,000 Horsemen and The Rats at Tobruk, in British films from Ealing Studios, The Overlanders, The Loves of Joanna Godden, Eureka Stockade and Bitter Springs, as well as in American productions Kangaroo and The Desert Rats. Lee Robinson had a documentary background, having made a short documentary about pearlers in 1949 and was a radio scriptwriter. Chips and Lee had worked together on the radio show Chips, A Story of the Outback, a program that had also featured Rod Taylor. They formed their production company to make Australian action-adventure films that would showcase the Australian landscape and attract an international audience, and this was their second production. The film's story was inspired by the 1905 murder of pearl buyer Mark Liebgild in Broome. After developing their script, they sent it off to Kenneth Sleshaw, best remembered as one of Australia's leading poets, but who was also a journalist, a film critic and a war correspondent during World War II. His advice was not to cram in too much local colour for its own sake, and to allow the narrative to come first. He described the prospective film as something that could be pretty good in its class. Originally titled King of the Arafura, it was retitled King of the Coral Sea due to the catchier name and the Coral Sea being better known. All Australian slang was removed from the script to avoid confusion for international audiences, with Rod Taylor's character, an American who stayed in Australia after World War II, created for international appeal. In addition to Taylor and Rafferty, Charles Tingwell and Lloyd Beryl were cast, having also worked in Sydney radio. Ilma Addy, a model and cabaret entertainer with no acting experience, was cast as love interest Rusty King, and Frances Chinsoon, a local nurse from Thursday Island, was cast as island girl Serena. The film was shot almost entirely on location on Thursday Island, except for the underwater footage which was filmed off Green Island near Cairns. Head cameraman Noel Monkman and the actors dived with rare scuba gear known as the Lawson lung. It was an illegal variation of the aqua lung, with the tank worn on the diver's back and the regulator worn on the chest. It was made in Sydney, in small numbers because of the lack of availability of scuba gear in Australia at the time. The location shooting was a point of difference from Hollywood films of the period and suited the filmmakers who hated building sets. Making Australian films in the 1950s was difficult because the government limited budgets to under £25,000 due to financial constraints following World War II. This is an impressive looking film on its tiny budget. The shoot ran from June to October of 1953, and the actors did all their own stunts, and a section of the local hospital was used as a darkroom. The production was highly collaborative, in part due to Lee Robinson's lack of experience as a director. The cast was very friendly and got along well, which is evident when watching the film. The world premiere was held on Thursday Island at their open-air Torres Theatre on the 17th of July 1954, with a simultaneous screening at the Majestic Theatre in Melbourne. The film enjoyed a successful release, and Robinson estimated it earned triple its cost within 3 months. A Queen of the Coral Sea competition was held to promote the movie, with contests held in each state, and the prize being a screen test and a holiday on Thursday Island. Variety commented on the film's first-class photography, but observed that the acting left something to be desired. English reviews were more positive, which contributed to the film's moderate international success. Lots of good reasons to watch this film. It has some well-photographed location footage, but sadly it's in black and white rather than colour. It's nice seeing a number of recognisable Australian actors, but most others will be more interested in seeing Rod Taylor in his first screen appearance. The underwater photography is very good, and the film's story is engaging without being compelling. It's an enjoyable viewing experience. So, what I'd suggest you do is that you go to our website, find our virtual screenings page, find the link to this particular film, click on it and watch it. We'd love to know what you think. Please come back, let others know your thoughts about the film and whether you recommend it for them as well. And then we're back in the not too distant future for our next classic films review. Catch you next time.